This is a reading from the book called The Life and the Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. I'm reading a part where the Moonai, who were these holy men talking to the researchers who went over to investigate the masters there, we're going to show them like in a motion picture, and yet motion pictures had not yet even been invented. But the Moonai were able to project their thoughts so that the researchers could see, like in a motion picture, the formation of all the planets having come from the sun. So I'm going to start at a part here, and this may take 3 or 4 segments to get this all in. This is what we designate as spirit. When the physical loses control, spirit takes control. And that control is much more definite, as it has a much wider range of vibration than the mere physical, and is much more susceptible to the control of thought influences or vibrations, since thought is much closer allied to and coordinated with spirit. The physical is limited to the body and does not extend from or away from it. The physical is limited entirely to the actions of the body, but not to its reactions. When it comes to body reactions, we are spirit, if we define it as spirit. Thus you can see how the physical body is limited. Spirit not only penetrates every atom of the so-called physical, it also interpenetrates the minutest part of all substance, whether it be solid or gaseous. In fact, it is the force in which the mold is wrought that substance takes its various patterns from. In no other way can substance take its various forms. Man is the only projector and coordinator of these various patterns that substance assumes. Allow me to digress for a brief moment of explanation. You see the great central sun of our universe blazing forth in all its magnificent splendor. And as the horizon gradually withdraws and exposes to our view a new day, a new epoch, a new Easter is born. This so-called universe of ours that rotates around that central sun is but one of 91 such universes that rotate around a central sun. This sun is 91,000 times larger than the whole or combined mass of all the 91 universes. This central sun is so colossal that each of the 91 universes, rotating around it in perfect order and sequence, is as small in comparison as the minute particles that spin around the central sun or nucleus of an atom, as you call it. It takes this universe over 26,800 years to accomplish one turn of its orbit around the great central sun. It moves in exact order with one complete procession of Polaris, or the North Star. Do you doubt there is a great positive, divine power controlling all? Let us return to our observation. Look closely. A picture is forming, and on the film is the white globular disk of the sun. A spot of red is forming on the white disk. Now look more closely, and you will see that a tiny point of pure white light has flashed out from the red disk. This is not a beam of light. It is a running point of pure light, the spark of life, emitted and included with that which is to be born. It is but a tiny point of light to you, yet it is huge to those who can view it at close range. How strange it seems to you. In a very short space of time you will be looking through an instrument that assists your eyes to see all these things. This will also reveal to humanity many more wonders. For millions of ages the great central sun has drawn to itself the throbbing, pulsating, yet harmonious emanations of energy which must give forth of itself or burst asunder. Observe that a great nebulous gaseous mass has burst forth from the sun. You have observed in pictures the birth of the planet Neptune, which is now a great mass of microcosmic particles or atoms that have been ejected from the parent sun with great force and power. While it is nebulous and indistinct, The point of light that appears before the final expulsion took place is the central sun that has the power to attract to itself and hold together even the minutest particles as well as those of larger dimensions that have been given forth from the parent sun. Your first thought is that an explosion has taken place and that particles of the sun have been shot into space. Stop a moment and observe what has really happened. Why do the particles and gases cling close together and form a definite circular pattern? It is because of the intelligent law back of and guiding it in perfect order and harmony. This is proof that it is no accident, but is in perfect order and sequence governed by law that never fails. This point of light, our central nucleus, is the central spark, our sun, the Christ of humanity, around which all humanity revolves. This is determined spirit force. This law prevails throughout all units of humanity. The central spark is a point of pure white light, the Christ, which penetrated the first cell. Then it expands, divides, and gives off that light to another cell, which is born of its division, but held together by a coexisting and cohesive force which is called love. These particles are nourished and held together just as the mother holds and nourishes the child. It is, in reality, the child of the sun, which contains within itself the nucleus of central sun. That nucleus is the image and likeness of the parent that has just given it forth. As soon as it has come forth from the parent, this central sun has the same power to draw to itself, consolidate, and hold the vibrant, emanating energy that surrounds it, and which is necessary for its life and growth. It does finally consolidate the most extended orbit of our universe. When Neptune first came forth and the central sun began to draw energy to itself, mostly from its parent, the sun, the atom began to consolidate into its form. That is, it began to shape itself into the pattern that was projected for it before its birth. It occupied what is known as the cradle orbit. The orbit occupied what is known as the cradle orbit. The orbit which Mercury occupies today. In this orbit, the child is able to draw its substance from the parent more successfully as it is much nearer to the parent. As it drew substance from its parent, it began to consolidate into form. Instead of remaining mere gaseous vapors in the nebulous state, the chemical elements began to segregate and consolidate. The resultant solids from chemical action began to consolidate, and rock structures began to form under intense heat and pressure. As this semi-liquid substance became more consolidated, it began to cool on the surface, and a crust formed. This crust became heavier and more dense, both by the cooling process and by the assimilation of particles upon and added them to the outside of the crust. When this crust became strong enough to hold the revolving mass together, this mass became the primary rock structure of the planet, with a semi-liquid molten mass at its center. Then, from the resultant gases and vapor, water began to appear as a product of the union of these gases. The nebula then became worthy of the name planet. It was now fast evolving toward a condition where it could sustain life, yet it must go on for eons of time, adding to its structure particle by particle from the outside. The continued cooling of the central mass brought it nearer and nearer to perfection, before its atmospheric, chemical conditions and surface were ready to bring forth life organisms and maintain those life organisms. At this juncture, the parent sun began to give birth to another atom. As this expulsion was completed, Uranus was born. The extra force